Hi, it's Kevin May, the Editor-in-Chief of PhocusWire. So we are joined by Ben Drew, you're the Vice President Business Development for Experiences at TripAdvisor. Experiences at TripAdvisor is a relatively new thing. It's gone through a couple of incarnations in terms of its name. So why have you ended up at Experiences then?
Yeah, well, this has caused some level of confusion in the industry, I think, but actually it's a relatively simple thing. Our origin was in tours and attractions, and over time we gradually realized that wasn't fully explaining what it was that TripAdvisor does. So we broadened it a little, or that was our intention, to broaden the definition and to call it Experiences.
Okay, right. So we've had some pretty meaty discussions already here at Arival today and yesterday, in fact, with some of the interviews that we did here. We'll go through some of the issues that are kind of cropped up. I mean, Dermot Halpin this morning, President of Experiences, was talking, about this commitment and a drive to just bring so many of the suppliers that aren't connected or don't have excellent connectivity into the fold, as it were.
That's right, yeah.
Which is, it's a hefty ambition, but it's almost a kind of an altruistic one, isn't it? So, you want to lead the charge for the industry. On that, I mean, how far do you think you have to go on that? And how long do you think it's going to have to take?
Well, on your first question, I think I would point to the data that exists in the market that says right now, I believe it's about 18% of the entire tours and attractions market is online.
Yep.
And that isn't just in OTAs, it is all of the dollars. And that is an incredible statistic to me, because it means that 4 out of every $5 in this day and age is still booked offline. So, how far do you have to go? We're starting right over here. Yeah. Compared to in hotels or air, where we're already right over here.
And it's actually fairly difficult to determine really how many there are, right?
How many
suppliers there are?
It can be, although we put a lot of work into the research and we make it our business to find that kind of thing out.
I suppose in a way you've got the advantage because they will have been businesses that perhaps have been reviewed anyway as part of the wider reviewing platform, I suppose.
Yes.
Okay. So how long do you think, and that's how long is a piece of string, right? But I mean, how long do you think that kind of drive will take until you say you get to 50% or a different milestone?
Well, I guess I would look at the other related industries where there are benchmarks on these things, but like you say, it's very hard to predict. Usually, with the technology that we have available now that we did not have when hotels was going through a similar evolution in 2005, 2010, the technology didn't exist then that we have now. So my guess is it would be more rapid, probably substantially more rapid.
TripAdvisor's putting a lot of effort into this. I mean, that's
absolutely
abundantly clear, and Dermot was saying that earlier on today. I mean, everyone talks about the biggest challenge for this sector is just getting everyone online and connected. What do you think is the second biggest challenge for the sector?
The second biggest challenge for the sector is most likely once people are online.
Yep.
Once tour operators are online and travelers are able to search and book in a kind of big way online, I imagine the next most important thing is the quality of the experience that those online bookable tour operators are able to offer to the travelers. So the information that is communicated, the reliability of, the detail around helping travelers to purchase products.
Okay. And now we're going to kind of go through some of the things that came up this morning. I think it's a fairly lively audience here for a travel conference. I think it's quite interesting. People are very open and vociferous with some of their points of view, and Dermot, to his credit, I think took everyone on the chin, every one of those different kind of comments on the chin. So, I mean, we'll go through some of them and get your kind of perspective as well. I mean, it was, TripAdvisor made a big acquisition in April.
Yes.
The drive behind purchasing Bokun has been the reason has been stated very clearly.
Yeah.
Something that hasn't been so clear until I think this morning was when Dermot was saying eventually that there will be a bias towards suppliers that use the Bokun system in listings. How do you think that's going to resonate with some of the suppliers that are here now? I mean, obviously you want them to go, oh, that's great, I better go on Bokun then. But I mean, just in the wider context, I mean, that's quite an important thing for him to admit, I would say.
I mean, our view on this is that we are a traveler-focused business, and as a result of buying this company, Bokun, we are putting in an enormous amount of investment into that product. Whether that is to make the product faster, more intuitive, easier to use and manage, whether it's to increase the amount of connections with other online travel agencies, or whether it is to actually improve the connectivity of the connection between Bokun and TripAdvisor, we're investing across the board. So with that in mind, the outcome of that is, in our expectation, a much better traveler experience.
Right.
And so when we think about what we want to show on TripAdvisor, we want to show the best traveler experience, and subject to doing that, we'll certainly be preferencing the best supply where we have the data to do so.
Right, because of the connection that they have.
Yeah, we have the full visibility of the
okay.
connection, and there's a lot of investment going into that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was sat at the back in the audience and listening to that, and someone sat next to me and said, well, that makes it potentially quite chaotic for a supplier if they have to connect to Bokun so that they do really, really well on TripAdvisor, but they need to connect with someone else. By what I'm trying to get at is that, do you get this kind of multi-reservation system, kind of almost like a marketplace, which can be confusing for perhaps suppliers that don't have the time and the wherewithal to deal with all that?
Well, we don't see it in those terms. Bokun is still very much open for business with every OTA.
Yeah.
We're not.
Yeah, he was very clear about
Yeah,
that.
I want to be. So I want to reinforce that point. We're not saying you can only work with TripAdvisor. That Bokun suppliers work with all OTAs, and we're very happy to encourage that. So we don't see it as a restriction in any sense to suppliers. We just see that the quality of the connection between Bokun and TripAdvisor is going to be industry leading. That's why we're investing in it, and it will be very high quality.
And will that kind of independence that you've given to Bokun, will that remain? Is that something that you firmly believe that they should remain almost like an independent switch?
By independence, do you mean the ability to distribute?
They can still go to other OTAs?
We think it's part of the value proposition of why suppliers use a software is in order to get more bookings.
Yeah.
So, our intention is that we are open for business with all OTAs.
Okay. One of the things that you were very firm about when the acquisition was made, that made, I think, a collective raising of eyebrows, was this zero commission. And Dermot spoke about it this morning. I mean, how long do you sense that's going to have to last for, or do you want that to be, that's the model now, is that we want to have this very, very low commission or zero commission rate?
Yeah, well, obviously it's a bold move. And the reason why we wanted to do that is because when you look at the barriers to entry for a tour operator into the software market, price is one of them. It's not the only one by any means, and we're under no illusions that purely removing the price will transform the business. We think it generates a lot of interest, but we know that the product has to solve the needs of the supplier as well as providing excellent value.
Okay.
So, as explained, the rationale for the deal has been explained around higher quality and online bookability. So that is what our intention is in reducing the price.
Right. And how long does that intention last for then?
Well, I've no set timelines on this.
But it's something that you see as a very firm strategy as part of buying Bokun, and it's reach out into the supplier world.
I think our intention is to provide a extremely high quality product at an extremely competitive price.
Okay.
And that is what we have. The second part is what we were able to do really quickly, and is what we did. And the first part is what you will see every week, every day, every week, every month from here on.
Yeah. And last of all, Ben, is this the closed loop system, which is the interaction between the customer and the person that's providing them with a tour or whatever it is they're doing, that you've handled for them as the intermediary on their behalf. And there's been some disquiet about not being able to just handle that communication yourself.
Right.
And Dermot, I quite fairly said, well, we're able to monitor what happens in the event of something going wrong, and it allows us just to improve our technology and our service and things like that, which is great. But specifically to this type of market where it gets really personalised and there are so many questions often about a particular product, wouldn't it just be better to just let them talk to each other?
Well, we are letting them talk to each other. That's
but
what
via the closed loop system.
Well, I don't see what, if your intention
they want the connection and to own the relationship. I think it's what it boils down to, rather than everything being done by you.
Well, like Dermot said in the interview, and you repeated just now, there are reasons why that is a good idea, and we're not restricting suppliers from communicating with travelers. It's just done in a way where there's visibility and a record of it after the fact. So, it's not a case of you can't communicate, it's a case of you just use a...
But you want to own the customer, essentially, right?
Well, like Dermot said in the interview, it is... there are a lot of reasons for the closed-loop communication system.
Okay, that's great. Thanks ever so much, Ben, Drew, for talking to us. Thank you. Thanks ever so much.